Over the past 6 months, Bitcoin has been dead flat, trading above and below $28,000. And over the past couple of days, Bitcoin recently had an explosive move up to about 35,000 bucks. And everybody's going, Chris, what's happening? Are we back? Are we back in a bull market? And instead of doing just a totally separate video, what I'm going to do is show you guys the video that I just recorded for our wealth building community, where I go into Bitcoin's price analysis, talk about altcoins, some of the alts that we're most interested in trading, and give you kind of an insight into how I'm thinking about this recent pop and what I'm expecting for the future. If you want to trade alongside of us, check out the link below where you can check out our wealth building community. And without further ado, we'll jump into this video so you can see how I'm thinking about trading the upcoming opportunities as prices start to pop here. So let's jump right into it. All right, let's jump in and just talk about what's happened, where we are, and what I think is coming next. So obviously the big news was yesterday here on October 23rd. Bitcoin had a big pop, and one of the reasons for that was the BlackRock's BTC ETF was listed on DTCC's website, and then it got pulled. And so there's just a lot of speculation of what's happening. I think it's pretty clear that a Bitcoin spot ETF is on the way. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't want to dive into any rumors, but you can see the price action is continuing the bullishness that we've seen all year. And what was just unclear prior to this was the 28K magnet, if that was going to hold, right? And as I posted in the watch list a few days ago, I said, hey guys, watch this area, this 30K zone. If this breaks, there's a ton of stops up in this area from people that were basically shorting this head and shoulders pattern. There was a lot of bearishness, a lot of people, kind of front running a short position, or I shouldn't say front run, but making an anticipatory short, assuming that 28K was going to hold as resistance. And when we saw the rumor, right? So this was the fake, was it Cointelegraph article that came out? And this basically ran through a whole bunch of stops. And then I noticed, okay, price is actually holding up here kind of above that 28K. Then we saw a couple days ago this challenging it. And then eventually, it was eating away at the ask there, just ate away at all those sell orders. And then everybody got kind of obsessed with this area. And as soon as price started moving through, it started to trigger a bunch of stops. And that's why we got that pop stop run that was just so quick. So just from this resistance level to the pivot high here, that was over like 15%. So that is absolutely a stop clearing move, and it's a new high on the year. And to me, this signals continued strength and continuation of the bull trend. Okay, so this is a very compelling move. And you can see from the beginning of the year, once we shifted market direction here, we've really been making higher highs and higher lows, and bulls have maintained control throughout the entire year. Now, we did have over 6 months of consolidation, right? And things weren't just 100% fast bull market, but the pre-halving bull scenario is still in play. And if we jump out to the larger time frame, the one thing that we were talking about so far this year was how, this 30K zone was a major level of resistance for the 2023 candle, right? It was the close and high of 2020. It was the open and low of 21. It was mid-range of last year. And then up until this week, it was resistance for the entire year, right? You can see, looking here at the monthly chart, we touched this area for the first time in March and have been chopping over and under 28K for the whole year. And then boom, we took out all those stops, made a higher pivot high. And so the bull market is looking like it is in full swing prior to the halving. So we'll just take a look coinblockhalf.com, and you can see the ETA for the next halving is here on April 24th. So, last half of April is what we're looking at here. So you can kind of think out into the future and say somewhere right around this yellow line. So the big black space prior to and after, this is what is an anticipatory bull market, right? Because as we've run the numbers in the past, the bull market typically starts, call it 500 days prior to halving and then continues for 400 or 500 days post halving. So if the market is going to continue its logarithmic exponential gain, right? So if we go to a log chart, if we're going to continue the stock to flow kind of exponential rise, you can see even on this chart, we've got the moving averages that are holding and everything is at this point pointing to the upside. Okay, so pretty bullish sentiment. And the question now is, okay, well, do we get in Q4 here? Do we get a run to test and maybe even exceed prior all-time highs? And right now, I think it's just really dangerous to be anything else other than bullish. It's kind of nice to say that, but why is that the case? Well, we have been in bull price structure territory, except for this little space down here where we got below all the moving averages. And then what was interesting though is how we actually had the bear trap, right? I think I have this written, got so many charts. So there were a few attempts at 25K support, and we got the little tweezer bottoms there at each moment. And what that does is, like, if you look at this day right there, if you look at that as a potential breakdown, it looks really scary, right? And what some people do is some longs get stopped out there. Some people start to short into that. And then when you see that kind of capitulation candle, it's not technically like an engulfing candle, but it is a reversal candle off of support. That shows you that bulls are defending, right? So bears were defending up here, had a tweezer top. And then as of yesterday, bears just got zipped through, no resistance whatsoever. And so now that that's the case, what are we looking for? All right. Am I going to just buy after a big green day? No, obviously not. So what I like to look at is this is the start of a new run. Okay. So you can run the anchor from a couple of different spots, but this is where I think is the most clear, where when we bounced off of 27K support, that is the start of this leg. And so what we can do now, start to look for some pullback areas. Now, obviously the market doesn't have to pivot here, but assuming that this is the local top, where could a pullback area be? If you look inside the sweet spot retracement between 38 and 61, you've got that, which also lines up with a potential retest of that breakout zone. So 32K was prior resistance, now turned into support. So I think anything inside of this yellow circle is the higher probability pullback level. Now, you can see we've also got the moving averages kind of way down here still. So that was a pretty quick move, right? When price action moves that quick, it can take some time for those moving averages to play catch up. So, we could either continue this leg and have another green day that takes out 35K and continues this run to the upside like that. Or if we start to get a couple of red days here and we show signs of like a pullback, we could stair step there down to these levels until we get somewhere inside of this yellow circle. So I would be interested in a pullback opportunity. I'm also interested in breakout opportunities. So if we get another, 1, 2, 3, 4, any kind of any kind of breakout opportunity, in addition to dips, right? So because we are in bull market territory and bull price structure, we're basically looking for dips and breakouts and accumulation range breakouts. Okay. So that's Bitcoin. That's what I'm thinking about. The other thing to consider here, excuse me, is how Bitcoin dominance is continuing its trek up. So this is really interesting. And this is typically how the cookie crumbles is step one, you get a Bitcoin pop. Step two, get a Bitcoin pullback, which leads to a large cap alt pop. Okay. And then that can filter down into small caps. So right now we've had the Bitcoin pop just over a couple of days, which also led to an increase in Bitcoin dominance. So the question is when we get that pullback in Bitcoin, does that capital, does some of that capital flow into alts? And if we just look at total 3, I actually wrote about this in the Daily Doe. Was it yesterday? Yes. I did a chart of the day here and was talking about the crypto market cap total 3 chart and how we were testing that resistance level. And, all eyes were on this area, right? It was either going to roll over and we were going to stay in this downside moment, or I was thinking if Bitcoin pops and alts go with it, that could lead to potentially the start of a new bull market in alts. Now, I still think there's a lot of headwinds for alts, both on the regulatory side and, with the FTX narrative and all that. So are we going to go back into a, 2021 type market environment? I don't think so, but I am ready to be proven wrong. Okay. But what I do think is some large caps could start to get some juice. So we've seen ETH that has also popped. It's up. See, from this kind of pivot low area, about, call it 20% on that run. But one thing we need to take a look at here is ETH BTC. Look how that, even though ETH was up over the past few days, it's actually down compared to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is still outperforming. And when we zoom out, you can look at this range, right? And we know when ETH is gaining on Bitcoin, that's typically when we are in an alt season. And then what happened is it moved into kind of tracking Bitcoin. They were both selling off together. And then right now we've been underperforming Bitcoin, right? So there's kind of that washout. So the question is when Bitcoin does get a pullback in price, does that mean that we're going to see a bounce here in the ETH BTC chart to potentially lead to ETH going back into an alt season bull market, right? That's yet to be seen. I'm not placing any anticipatory bets there, but that's kind of the idea of what we can pay attention to. Let's see if there's anything today kind of popping. I know so INJ was one that had a big breakout. Well, let's just kind of jump over into alt USD charts. So Ripple getting a little bit of a bounce. Again, I'm on the weekly candle here, but nothing too compelling. ETH still kind of mid-range there. Too early to tell. TRX been grinding higher. So potential breakout of this range. Litecoin fading. Cardano, interestingly enough, has been beat to death and is over 90% off all-time highs. You are at market cycle lows. So it's not at prior market cycle accumulation range, but it is over 90% off of all-time highs and starting to get a bounce. So from a risk to reward perspective, there is more upside potential coming now that Bitcoin is popping. So some things that I like to look for when market environments start to shift like this is what are the higher quality projects that have been beat to death that are either at support or close to a breakout. Okay. That's kind of what I'm thinking there. So Cardano's one that I've been interested in. A lot of these, Doge, also another one, super high risk, but we all know the Elon narrative there. Stuff like AVAX, charts like this that have just been kind of bleeding out. I'm going to avoid those. Solana, some of the ones that have narrative from this last market cycle, testing breakout. So keeping a close eye on this. Even DOT, stuff like this, the charts are still just kind of garbage. Uni. Let's see what's up today. So also what's going to happen is you're going to start to see some of these lower volume coins rip, because when you have thin markets, these micro caps, they can pop, but you got to be really careful, because like today, this was up. What was this up intraday? Maybe closer to 100%. It's already down halfway from that pivot high. So you got to be careful chasing in these environments. I know, people like to get excited and start chasing, but just be careful on the micro cap stuff. Even AI starting to get a little bit of a pop above the moving averages again. So keeping an eye on those. Let's see. INJ, this is one that had really nice price structure throughout the first half of the year, had a battle zone, stayed above the moving averages, and then boom, ended up getting a rip to the next area that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks, which is that 100% up around 12. And you can see that's where sellers are actually starting to come in now. KNC giving a little bit of a breakout. I've been trapped in this on so many fake out breakouts. I'm just going to ignore it for now. Excuse me. So, again, I'm just scaling through all these. My favorite coin of the century is WorldCoin. Just kidding. But with that said, even though this is a dystopian nightmare, look at the price structure. It is in a rounding pattern. You got $2 as major resistance. There was no way I was going to touch it over here. Fade, fade, fade. Found support. First sign of strength came in. Higher pivot high. Grinded higher into 190. Call it 2. Has been flat. So obviously that's just an hourly. There's not a whole lot of price action here, but a $2 breakout, this thing could move. Okay. Higher pivot high. Let's see. If we run the price action, so 50% retracement right to the first moving average that started to plot there, which is the 50-day. And if we run an extension, okay, look where the 100% is, back around this zone. Okay. So if we did get a rounding and breakout, really this like 250 area would be, in my opinion, kind of the start of what we'd be looking for. At a minimum, I'd be looking at a 1-to-1 move of this prior range. So that puts us up around that 2618. So, call it 375 to $4. Running some numbers. I always have a hard time finding the trade ideas. There we go. So, say we get some kind of breakout opportunity there where you're risking, like 20, 25 to make 100. Higher risk, higher potential reward. I'll just leave this drawn up this way. We'll see what happens by Thursday. And again, a lot of these where either the volume is dead or the community's dead, or the price chart is just not compelling. I'm just going to kind of skip through. ANT, we talked about this one, has been in bullish price structure. I hate the price action. It's really, really thin and dangerous. But we talked about this either last week or 2 weeks ago, kind of the structure with that trade idea. And obviously we'll do more of a deeper dive on Thursday. I'm just getting settled back in the office here, but I wanted to do this video for you guys, just to give you my thoughts. Also, SNX, another one bouncing off of this accumulation range, had a full retrace of this prior cycle. So the big macro question is, what kind of alt season are we going to get, if any? right? Have you been thinking about that? What is your thesis? What are you guys excited about? What are you seeing out there? CAS, another one that's been holding up, showing strength. Potential breakout of 55 cents. Keep an eye there. So this is great, guys. This is an encouraging sign. Just finish the scan, and then we'll also take a look at the NQ. There's a couple things there. Okay, so Rune, tweezer top, fake out, made a lower pivot low, and then back at these highs. So pretty frustrating price action here. This is a project that has had some good community involvement and development so far this year in the face of all the negativity. And chop, chop, chop. Okay. So let's take a look then at the NQ. Oh, Maker also holding up. You can see, there's a few tickers that have really just been holding up beautiful price action. So another one is Naka, which this probably had the strongest relative strength. Notice how it's respecting these price areas very well. This is what we call trading with conviction, where price action is actually respecting our areas and it makes sense, right? Versus 99% of the other garbage that the charts just really haven't been that compelling. Prime, another one that had a fake out breakout, holding back at resistance. And then MC, this is one that actually did make a higher pivot high and has had a breakout. Now, I haven't bought any of these yet. I've just been watching, but you can start to see popcorn season, right? The ones that are early signs of breakouts and strength. This is great. This will lead to potentially more moves in the future. So a couple more things I wanted to talk about, and then I'll wrap up this video. One was the correlation, or maybe even the decoupling of stocks and crypto. You can see there was actually like some inverse price action here. It's like Bitcoin got a pop and then a pullback. At that same moment, you can see that pivot high in the NASDAQ when the NQ started to sell off here on October 12th. This was actually Bitcoin's low. So on this latest leg, as Bitcoin moved, 30%, wow, that's crazy, over 2 weeks. That was actually the pivot high here in the NQ, where it was down, 5 or 6%. Now, the NQ is getting a little bit of a bounce, and we have support here. So the big question is, now that we've closed this gap yesterday, are bulls going to be able to defend here on the NQ and the ES? So let's jump over to the ES. You can see that actually hit the 200 period moving average. I think that's the 200. Yeah. Close that gap as well. So a lot of eyeballs are on stocks, but I tell you, this is a really good sign that Bitcoin was able to make that inverse to the NQ, right? So this move was the opposite of stocks. And when we start to see that sign, that is a really encouraging thing when Bitcoin starts to trade with a mind of its own. So guys, we may be shifting here. I know we've had a really boring last 6 months, but I'm stoked for the way that things are starting to develop here. And now's the time to really hone in, dust off the cobwebs. All right. I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you got any value from it, give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section, or even better, if you want to trade and invest alongside of us, click the link below to check out our wealth building community, where we have an awesome group of guys and ladies that are in there just laser focused on building wealth and trading, investing, finding opportunities, building businesses. It's just a really fun, engaging way to get around other elite traders and investors and people that are brand new and everybody in between. So again, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.